Why can't these guys just talk normal? And whenever he tries to talk normal, he keeps saying, mama, mama, my mama, my mama. And it's like, bro, that's also weird. Like you're not, like, I want to shake him and be like, be normal. Biden harbors lingering frustration at Pelosi, Obama, and Schumer. Yeah. Deleted the tweet means it never happened. I know. We'll talk about Dr. Disrespect in a little bit. All right. Let's move on.
It's so funny.
The Harris stuff.
Amy, I think when you were here before, it was July.
Look at how happy they are, by the way. Look at how happy Morning Joe is. Like they went from, they were the last bastion of the Biden dead enders. And look at how excited they are at these poll numbers. What happened, Joe? I thought, maybe I'm wrong, that polls didn't matter. Polls certainly didn't matter when he was trying to make an argument about how polls don't matter because you know, Joe Biden was doing worse in the polls. Fake friends. Now they're laughing. They're farting on Biden. They're laughing on him. Fake friends.
Why? We were probably talking about Joe Biden. The Trump people were talking about how...
What is the audio? Is someone pissing?
They were going to win. They were measuring the curtains, et cetera, et cetera. I think we all said it's only July. Now we can say it's only August. So it's still early. But again, quoting Churchill for the 18th time, at least it's now sort of the end of the beginning. We're about to get into the full swing of the campaign. You've got new numbers from swing states. What are you finding?
Yeah, you're right. This race has been reset, certainly since May, but even since July when President Biden dropped out. Look, back in May, we saw Biden trailing.
The DNC have been firebombing my home in Palestine every time I vote for them. Switch to Republican, not because I think they will do better, but because I don't want to reward DNC. Tim Walz's going to level my entire neighborhood. At least with Trump, we get funny clips. Bro, that is an insane bargain, dude. Like, good luck with that, man, my man. Like, I don't know what to tell you. No, I get wanting to punish the Democratic Party, and you should definitely be very outspoken about that. You should even turn around and say that you're not only not voting for the Democratic Party, but the Republican Party as well, when you're communicating your desires for the Democratic Party to change their trajectory on this, okay? But if you think for a moment that, like, Donald Trump's going to be better for Gaza, dude, if you ask me to check your chat log one more time, I'm going to tell you right now, I am putting you on a Boeing spaceship to the International Space Station where your 8-day trip is going to turn into an 8-month trip. Do you understand me? You are becoming an astronaut. Take a week off. Literally has not. That chatter has been trying to get me to watch a Majority Report clip and has not stopped. I know. I see it. He ats me every time. Okay. I see it. If I don't check your logs, that means I saw it and I moved on. Okay. I saw it and I moved on. You should too.
In all of the swing states, or at best tied. Right now, Harris is either leading or tied with Trump in those swing states.
What's up?
There's one state, Nevada, which she's still trailing in. But overall, if you look at those 7 swing states, Harris is up, again, within the margin, but up 48-47. Biden was down by 3 points. So it's to me, the most remarkable piece of this poll. It's what we've been seeing in surveys now that have been coming out in the last week or so, is how little she has been burdened, shall we say, by her association with the administration. She's the sitting vice president, and yet 59% of voters in these...
Listen, I've been saying this, and I'm glad that it's getting picked up. It's getting picked up on Twitter. Reverse 2016 is a theory like gravity's a theory. I'm so glad that other people are also noticing this, okay? It's good. It's good. I'm glad that other people are also picking this up. Reverse 2016, baby. Hillary gonna snatch that presidency, so watch out. She's a girl gone wild. Year of HasanAbi vindication. Oh, yeah. What's the reverse 2016 theory? The reverse 2016 theory is one that I've been slushing around in my mind for quite some time. First, I said it was actually just like 2016, where Biden, who is like deeply unpopular, was refusing to drop out of the race despite obvious calls for it, in the same way that Hillary Clinton is, and that it was going to be a potential victory for Donald Trump, just like in 2016. Okay. Having said that, however, since the swap out happened with Kamala Harris becoming the leader on the ticket and Tim Walz, the momentum has swung wildly in the other direction, where now Donald Trump is operating like Hillary Clinton against Kamala Harris, that is not operating like Hillary Clinton, but I would dare I say even almost Trumpian ways. Here's what they posted. Look at this cringe ass nonsense. He posted this. This is what he posted on his True Social, bro. He is so cooked. Anyway, I can't even play it. Elon posted it. We won. Haters will say this is AI. 800,000 likes. Oh my God. Shoot me into the sun on a rocket ship. Oh my God. Oh my God. 800,000 likes for this. Oh my Lord, dude. People are so stupid. The boomer base is eating that up. I promise you. It's got to be botted. It's got to be. I hope. It's so incredibly cringe. It was cringe when Hillary Clinton did it. It was cringe when other celebrities did it in the 2016 in the 2016 cycle, and it is still very much cringe when the Trump administration is doing it. Ugh. What? Shots at Barron? I literally saw Barron slap the out of his nanny in Central Park after school. Wait, really? Anyway, let's get back to this.
Swing states think that she is basically the change candidate. She's turning the page from Trump and Biden. She is a generational change, obviously, but they believe that too. And even though Trump is ahead on issues like immigration and the economy, on inflation, obviously the number one issue for so many voters, she's only trailing Trump by 6 points. I think if Biden were in, Biden were in this race, it would be a much bigger margin.
Amy, when you were here last with those polls that showed so much of this race had swung toward Donald Trump, there was, as you know, among Democrats,
Big slime emoji. Trump isn't cringe. Stop talking crazy. If I was talking crazy right now, I'd be telling you there is no 3-minute ad break coming for you at the top of the hour. But I'm talking sane, okay? Because at the top of the hour, there is a 3-minute ad break. If you no longer want to see those ads, then all you need to do is subscribe, which you could do for $6 or for free with Twitch Prime. Here's the 3-minute ad break now.
Sense of almost resignation midsummer of the debate was a disaster. Joe Biden, we love the guy, but he's too old. I'm not going to go vote for Donald Trump, but I think I'm sitting this one out. Is that what this is about? I think
that's exactly what we're seeing is those voters who were parking themselves in, I'm going to vote for RFK Jr. maybe, or I'm undecided, have now all come back to Democrats. What's interesting, too, is RFK Jr. now is more of a problem for Trump than he is for Harris. Again, many of her voters now coming back to her, but the RFK voter is just by profile is somebody who should be or would be more would be more interested in voting for Donald Trump.
So, Amy, is it over?
Can you explain why RFK Jr. is a bad choice? No, I'm done. I'm done explaining it. I've explained it far too many times. Okay. Like, if I'm going to vote for RFK, I'm going to vote Democrat. Like, why the fuck would I vote for a Democrat who is just as pro-Israel as the rest of the Democratic Party is, but then also is like anti-medicine? No, man, I'm good on that. Like, my major issue isn't just like, it's not even just vaccines, it's just medication in general. Okay. My major issue with the Democratic Party is not that, like, I want a guy who is basically a regular ass Democrat with like 2 exceptions. Okay. Medication, medicine, anti-medicine.
Stating it to indicate that the movement of voters back toward the vice president who are sitting on the fence or just not thinking. Is it a combination of relief and gratitude among voters? Gratitude toward the president for withdrawing and relief that, as you point out, a sitting vice president of the United States is now someone new?
She's new. And I do think, I do wonder if she weren't a woman, if this weren't as historic as it is, if you would have that level of movement and intensity. Because she literally is, even if you don't know much about.
No, it's just because she's not Joe Biden. That's it. That's the only thing she's not that has been the most helpful thing. Okay? That's it.
Politics. You're not following this day to day. You've been hearing and seeing from 2 older white guys for a long time.
she is just not Joe Biden. She is not a carcass. The people do not have a problem with the Democratic Party's platform. That's why a generic Democrat, according to the New York Times poll that I keep reiterating over and over again, a couple months ago showed a generic Democrat winning 25 points, like a generic Democrat up 25 points over Joe Biden. Okay. Kamala Harris is simply not a carcass. That's it. It's not because she's a woman. It's not because she's a black woman. It's not because she's a black Indian woman. None of that matters all that much in the grand scheme of things, especially for the Democratic Party voters. It's because she's a generic Democrat who is much younger.
Long time now and being very uninspired by it. And then all of a sudden here comes this woman who doesn't look or act or sound like anything you've seen before in politics. And suddenly it's like, I'm gonna listen in. So she's getting a benefit of the doubt that
this is just delusion overall. It's not like Kamala Harris is like a uniquely charismatic figure. As a matter of fact, all the coconut memes come from, or like the wheels on the bus, or all the laughing memes literally come from the fact that she's kind of goofy and not super charismatic. It's okay. You don't have to be, okay? Especially when people are geared towards voting for the not a carcass vote, okay? That's it. Like, this is just delusional, in my opinion.
Is quite remarkable for a sitting vice president.
So, Jamar, what we're seeing here are trends that it's not that Donald Trump is losing support, but rather that Kamala Harris has gained support, reconsolidating, as Amy just said. And I think it's particularly of note as you talk to Democrats, how they feel younger voters coming home. And certainly.
Serious question, why do you watch random MSM pundits? I tune in here so I can avoid them. How about you avoid the top of the hour ad break, which I ran already, okay? I watch mainstream media pundits so that I can do commentary over it.
Voters of color. And that's just a coalition that she has to build, particularly in the suburbs and the big cities in these battleground states.
Yeah, it feels like folks coming home rather than her moving undecided voters to the Democratic column. And there's obviously a huge difference. Now, in an era of polarization, getting Democrats to come home, getting them motivated is crucial because mobilization matters. I don't think it matters as much as persuasion, but mobilization matters a lot. The key for her is going to be the next phase, which is persuasion, which is moving undecided voters to the Democratic column. Those numbers you guys flashed on the screen for the VP are positive vis-a-vis where Biden was, but they're still challenging for a Democratic candidate for president. Look, it's not ideal to be losing narrowly in Nevada and to basically be tied in Pennsylvania right now, because if you lose those two states, the path to the White House gets really complicated for a Democrat. But obviously, this is a lot better than where they were a few months ago. And also, guys, it's important to point out what she's also done. She stabilized down ballot. Because speaking of Democrats coming home, there were so many House and Senate Democratic candidates who were worried that they were now toast because Biden was so weak on top of the ticket. At the very least now, she's helped stabilize candidates who were looking for volunteers, who were looking for support, looking for contributions, and all that was drying up over the summer. Now, at least, I think a lot of folks down ballot feel better about their chances.
Yeah. In a race like this, a rising tide really does lift all boats. Democrats don't like it.
Y'all didn't want this, Joe. Joe, you hated that, Joe. You were advocating against it, Joe. You kept saying these people are crazy, Joe. The f happened? The f happened? You didn't put respect on Nancy Pelosi's name. That's what happened.
Yeah, it really does, and it's exactly what's happening here. Donnie,
yeah, these guys are the worst instincts, bro. They were also on Team Shapiro as well. Like they just lucked into so many sequential W's from the Democratic Party, responding to pressure in a way that they never have. There's also one other W that I got to give to Joe Biden. New conversations coming out from the chaos and confusion that was happening has basically, one, vindicated AOC about the chaos and the confusion behind the scenes that she was warning about, and two, kind of gave Joe a little bit of a W. It turns out that Joe Biden's dropping and also simultaneous endorsement of Kamala Harris came as a bit of a shock, because it seems like Nancy Pelosi was actually interested in doing the thing that I thought was very devastating, an open primary. I think that was Joe's last but it actually worked in favor for the Democratic Party and its chances come November. As I said before, it would have been it would have been great for content. I'm going to the DNC regardless, right? It would have been great for content, but it would have been horrible for the Democratic Party if they were doing an open primary right now, coming up to an open primary, people petitioning, trying to put their name out there. It would have been a tornado. Loki AOC was very right. I did not think so at the time. AOC was the one who said that was what was going on behind closed doors. It made me think that maybe she's lying to save face a little bit because of how unimaginably insane that is in terms of how Democrats still could not see how much chaos that would create. Imagine a Walz ticket, brother. There is no world where first of all, Tim Walz is great. You should thank Kamala Harris for that. Okay, you should thank Nancy Pelosi for that as well, but you should thank Kamala Harris for that. Walz never had presidential ambitions. What are we talking about? It would have been Gavin Newsom, okay? It would have been Gavin Newsom going up against all these other random Democrats, with Nancy Pelosi most likely pushing for Gavin Newsom, Josh Shapiro as well, potentially. So the reality is that the party would have been in utter panic. A lot more people would pay attention, but it would have looked so chaotic and so disordered. Why are you assuming AOC calling out the machinations against Kamala didn't help corner donors in the jumping on board following Biden's baton pass? Yeah, this was luck after luck after luck. One thing it wasn't was true party competence, it seems. I don't know why Nancy Pelosi personally also openly revealed that she was open for an open primary. I said open 8 times, but it would have been a horrible, horrible idea.
I was saying that the evidence that young voters were coming home to Democrats was anecdotal before. Now we see the numbers that is happening. I suspect it will continue to happen. But, that was Joe Biden's biggest challenge. As has been pointed out here, it's not that Donald Trump is losing voters. It's that Kamala Harris is picking up voters that were staying away. But younger voters coming home, people of color, voters coming home, women, more women moving to Kamala Harris in her direction. I think especially important, though, even though they don't vote as much as older voters, younger voters, the energy that is now behind Kamala Harris is just so striking. And I say that mainly, but there's so many younger voters that were going to sit it out or just had no connection to Joe Biden, that now want to volunteer, that want to go to rallies, that want to make phone calls. It's pretty striking, just the difference a month makes.
2 words, and you guys have talked about it: hope and change. If you look back the last 30 years, when the Democrats have had that enthusiasm, that kind of wave that we're feeling. With Bill Clinton, I worked on Bill Clinton's campaign in 1992, did advertising, and of course with Barack Obama, you had that hope and change. Hillary Clinton, you couldn't.
That high-pitched noise that you hear is a staple for Morning Joe, because the average age of Morning Joe watchers are 86. No one hears it. It's so goddamn annoying. Every clip I watch from them has that high-pitched noise in the background. I try to not bring it up because now you're going to hear it too and not be able to unhear it. But that is the reason, because most people that watch Morning Joe are not in this community. They're 85 years old. So obviously they don't hear the high pitch. It's really goddamn annoying, though.
Didn't sell that, and she lost. Joe Biden, he won, he squeaked it out, but there wasn't that enthusiasm. Why? Because you couldn't sell hope and change. When you have that, you're almost unbeatable. That's kind of what you mentioned. Every constituency, young people, people of color, they want hope, they want change. Pretty much everybody wants that. Even if you're happy in your life, you say hope. You want more hope? Yeah. You want more change? Yeah. So that's the thing. That's the wave that's happening. And that's what the Cook Report is saying. That's what all the anecdotal things are saying. So when you have that, as I said, those magical 2 words, and Donald Trump can stand on his head. There's one thing he can't give you is change, and he certainly can't give you hope. He's going in the opposite direction. So once again, Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, Kamala Harris, hope and change.
And the word you keep hearing of these rallies is joy. People are happy to be there. They're enthusiastic. You can contrast that with Donald Trump on X for 2 hours, with Elon Musk just laying out his grievances. A very different picture there. A number inside your report, Amy, that will hearten the Harris campaign is this independent number, which 3 months ago, Donald Trump, in your analysis, +3. Now Harris +8. That's a huge number. It
is a big movement, and it's a lot of independent women that are coming over and right now supporting Harris. I think, to Jonathan's point, when you look at who those undecided voters are, or people who are...
Kamala's malleability as a politician is her best trait. I think it is not the worst thing in this situation. It's just entirely dependent on how she moves going forward, like I said. And they're basically, I think, in a holding pattern in terms of her policies. They're like doing a slow drip release of the policies. They obviously can't avoid it once the DNC comes around. But like part of that is because when you have no policies, when you don't have the white paper out, they're not going to be able to attack them and be like, this is a devastatingly bad idea, whatever. It's like reverse Project 2025, right? Like Republicans are not able to tackle any of the ideas because she's currently just riding the momentum wave. I would like to also see her policies. Some of the stuff that they've mentioned so far are pretty good, pretty progressive. The Tim Walz pick basically locks her into more radical, quote unquote, radical progressive policies in general. We'll see.
Are still saying maybe I'll vote third party. They are very cross-pressured on the following. They feel very anxious about the economy. They do feel like inflation is getting worse at a higher level than the overall electorate. They don't like Donald Trump personally. I mean, I feel like we're just we've been rerunning this same playbook now for a long time of voters who say, well, I mean, I kind of liked his policies when he was president. Oh, I don't really like how he acts. And so those voters, how Harris talks to those voters, how she's able to, as Jonathan pointed out, persuade them that she's going to be able to deliver for them. And more important, if Trump can stay on the message about the economy. But again, I feel like we have this conversation over and over again. If only he would stick to a message on the thing that he's actually winning on.
Yeah, that's a lot of people inside the campaign and the Republican Party.
It gets worse every time Joe speaks. Oh my God.
Would like him to do the same thing.
I think it's because they just don't want anyone under the age of like 80 to hear what he has to say.
He's not. Jane Mart, I want to underline something that you said. I think it's so important for people watching. Yes, these numbers have shifted. Where we are right now, though, if you look at all these numbers, kind of where we were a month ago as far as this race being close. This is still tied. This race is tied right now. Now, it's tied with a slight lean to Harris. A month ago, it was tied and with a slight lean, except in Nevada and North.
Wait a minute. I thought those polls were insignificant, inconsequential, irrelevant, utterly irrelevant. Joe, I've been tuning into your goddamn broadcast every day for the past couple of months, Joe. I've heard you personally say on numerous occasions that those polls are just inconsequential. It's hokum. No one should read into them at all. It's a conspiracy to dethrone the GOAT, your GOAT.
North Carolina, if you look at those numbers.
Joe Fraud Burrow.
With a slight lean and all the states that really make a huge difference. It was, so it's Harris +2. Now in Arizona, it was Trump +1. Tied in Georgia, it was Trump +3. You go down this list, everything except for Nevada and North Carolina, those are all within the margin of error. This race is tied.
Yeah, Joe, we're in an era of political trench warfare. This is World War I in American politics. Amy mentioned the same conversation that we've all been having for 9 years. Well, yeah, because we're a 51-49 country and Democrats have an advantage. But obviously we have an electoral college, not a popular vote. So it's a toss-up country, and it has been now for the last 3 presidential elections. But Joe, 2 things. First of all, if you look at Georgia and North Carolina in that graphic you just showed, show, this is important to focus on, too. And it does show the possibility that Kamala Harris could galvanize black voters in a way that we haven't seen since 2012 in American politics. Look at that number there, where she obviously has moved numbers in Georgia and North Carolina, both states with significant black populations. Boy, if she can win Georgia and North Carolina, that really, really changes the equation, because obviously it creates less pressure on her to carry all three of those states in the Great Lakes.
We do have Donald
Trump. It was Iran fire comments after leaving voting location.
Trump speaking right now. Let's listen on Live Now.
We just had a poll that shows we're doing very well, and we have an interesting.
Oh, here we got a couple different things. Okay, when he left, Trump speaks after casting ballot in the Florida primary. They had a couple moments here. One of them was really cool. He said, where they asked him about the Harris AI crowds.
And he said Harris's crowd sizes were AI and that there weren't people there. There's all kinds of video evidence and people who were there who have proven that false. Can you tell us about why you made that claim?
Well, I can't say what was there, who was there. I can only tell you about ours. We have the biggest crowds ever in the history of politics. We have crowds that nobody's ever seen before, and we continue to have that. We have a level of enthusiasm that nobody's seen before. They want to make America great again. That's what's happening. We're going to make it great again. Right now, we have a failing nation. We're in a failing nation.
Bro, he sounds like AI. If my eyes were closed and I heard this, I'd be like, that's AI Trump. That's not real Trump.
And become in many ways a third world nation, and we're not going to let that happen. Thank you.
Bro's never answered a serious question straight. Also, here's some interesting news. Arizona court, fetus can be referred to as unborn human being in an abortion measure voter pamphlet. Arizona voters will decide in November whether to add the right to an abortion to the state constitution, which obviously is a big deal for any state, not Florida, because this is in the Florida ballot as well, except it will not have any sort of, it will not have a single, like even a little bit of positive benefits for the Democratic Party, because Florida is the most state on the planet where they routinely vote for some of the most progressive ballot measures and then go and vote for like reincarnated Hitler on a regular basis. So that's not going to really move the needle in Florida, but it will move the needle in places like Arizona. Also, speaking of people being unhinged, more JD Vance audio has resurfaced. New Vance audio in an interview from 2020. JD Vance agrees with a podcast host who says having grandmothers help raise children is the whole purpose of the post-menopausal female.
And you can sort of see the effect it has on him to be around them. Like, they spoil him. There's sort of all the classic stuff that grandparents do to grandchildren. But it makes him a much better human being to have exposure to his grandparents.
Well, I don't know.
And the evidence on this, by the way, is like super clear.
That's the whole purpose of the postmenopausal female in theory. Did your in-laws, and particularly your mother...
Bro, too much internet, man. Too much internet. Too much internet. That's it. You're doing it. You're doing too much internet. He did it. He went on these random loser podcasts and he talked about postmenopausal females. How did the Trump camp not look at this immediately after Donald Trump Jr. was the one who said, Vance? That's the first thing I would have done. Oh, my loser son, who's really invested in memes, is telling me that this is a good pick. Let me go search like any podcast appearances that he's made, because I know he's made podcast appearances because my dumbass son loves making podcast appearances because he's a loser. And so is JD Vance, the exact same kind of loser.
In-law show up in some huge way.
She lived with us for a year.
Right.
So,
So I didn't know the answer to that.
Right. No,
so
like, he can't talk about something so normal, right? Like, he has personal experiences with being raised by his grandparents. This is something that we know about his background. He could just be normal about it and be like, I was very fortunate that my grandmother and my grandfather was in my life. I loved coming from a large family like that. You know, I saw the benefits of that. No, he has to say like, postmenopausal females have a natural predisposition to take care of the children of the family. It's like, dude, you're so weird. Why? Like, it blows my mind that he mathematically figures out the grossest way to talk about it in a way that like is both parts nerdy and part like dehumanizing of like normal people that like nobody in Ohio that hears this is going to go, yeah, that's my guy. Okay.
So that's this weird unadvertised feature of marrying an Indian woman.
So it's in some ways the most transgressive thing I've.
What?
Huge way.
She lived with
mother-in-law. Did your in-laws, and particularly your mother-in-law, show up in some huge way?
She lived with us for a year.
Right.
So,
So I didn't know the answer to that.
Right. No.
Because that's this weird unadvertised feature of marrying an Indian woman.
No, it's in some.
Bro, these dudes need lobotomies to be normal. I swear to God. Like the words that you're using could not be grosser. Okay. I don't know. They just can't help themselves. I think it's just like a charisma problem. You know what I mean? It's just a charisma problem. He could just be like, bro, I married into an Indian family. They really love family values. Okay. My mother-in-law is like very invested in my life. Okay. But no, he has to do it with Eric Weinstein, who just has to be a weird racist loser about it. You know what I mean? Like,
in some ways, the most transgressive thing I've ever done against sort of the hyper neoliberal approach to work and family. My wife had this baby 7 weeks before she started the clerkship. He was still not sleeping any more than an hour.
Are you even listening to what he's saying? Yes, I am. And I'm also filtering it to make it appear normal, because what he's saying, both of those things that he just mentioned, both the podcast host and JD Vance, both of what they said is not that weird to say. Like the actual statement of like grandparents taking care of your children is actually not a bad thing. It's actually a really good thing, is a perfectly normal thing to say. Okay. Postmenopausal females have a natural predisposition towards taking care of the born child is an insanely weird way to say it. Okay. And the on the other side, the podcast host being like, well, this is an unadvertised feature of the Indian race is also insane. Like, why? Like, what? Why can't these guys just talk normal? And whenever he tries to talk normal, he keeps saying, mama, mama, my mama, my mama. And it's like, bro, that's also weird. Like you're not, like, I want to shake him and be like, be normal, dumbass. What's wrong with you? Yeah, I come from Nepal and it made sense, but every chatter was so I just didn't say anything in chat. No, like it's not a weird thing to say in general. It's just how he's saying it is weird. Okay. Do you understand what I mean? Like he could just be like, listen, I'm a white boy from Ohio. I had no idea what like Indian families were like. You know what I mean? I had no idea that my like Indian mother-in-law was going to be so like all over the child raising process. Like it's awesome. It's great. You know, it's wonderful. Like my wife's family cares a lot about you know, being a part of my kid's life. It's the absolute worst way. Is the absolute worst way to say like a relatively normal thing. Okay. Because you just automatically hit it from like the weird scientific breeder fetish angle.
The clerkship, he was still not sleeping, work and family. My wife had this baby 7 weeks before she started the clerkship. He was still not sleeping any more than an hour and a half in a given interval. And her mom just took a sabbatical. She's a biology professor in California.
Yeah, describing your wife as having features like she's the new iPhone. It's just, you just hear what you want to hear in general. You have a clear disposition. Yeah, I do. I actually yell at chatters all the time for being weird too. I don't know if you know this. There's plenty of leftists in this community that are objectively not normal, and I yell at them all the time, and they almost always turn around and double down on the weirdness and be like, I'm not normal. It's not normal. I'm not going to be normal. Shut the fuck. You're being ableist or whatever the fuck. And then I ban them. Okay. So no, this is a equal opportunity smoke moment.
Just took a sabbatical for a year and came and lived with us and took care of our kid for a year.
Okay.
So and it was just one of these things where it's like, this is what you do.
So a biology professor, PhD.
Yes.
Drops what they're doing.
Yeah.
To immediately tend to the needs of a new mother with her infant.
Painfully economically inefficient. Right?
Can I just propose?
Like why didn't she just keep her job, give us part of the wages to pay somebody else to do it, right? Because that is the thing that the hyper liberalized economics wants you to do. The economic logic of always prioritizing paid wage labor over other forms of contributing to a society is to me, it's actually a consequence of a sort of fundamental liberalism that is ultimately going to unwind and collapse upon itself. I think it's the abandonment of a sort of Aristotelian.
This is such a white conversation. It's like when your chatters ask you why you live with your parents. I know, but it's like I get what he's trying to say. Okay, I get what he's trying to say. Once again, what he's trying to say is actually sound. Okay, what he's trying to say is that capitalism causes people to operate in a way that is not beneficial. It makes people alienate from one another, not only just alienate from their labor, but alienate from one another, and it destroys the family unit. It is not, everyone is constantly talking about productive labor. Everyone is constantly focused on productive labor. Everyone is constantly focused on like what their contribution to the economy would look like, and that creates this vacuum where women that want to have children, women that want to actually take care of their children, it causes them to move away from doing things like that. Okay, that's what he is basically trying to say. But he's doing a really bad job at saying those things. He doesn't believe it's capitalism. He won't say all that. All he does is uses liberalism as a scapegoat to point fingers at the left. Yeah, because he's also like a Silicon Valley tech loser. Of course he's not going to say it's capitalism.
Virtue politics for a hyper market-oriented way of thinking about what's good and what's desirable. If people are paying for it and it contributes to GDP and it makes the economic consumption numbers rise, then it's good. And if it doesn't, it's bad. I think that entire sort of, to me, that's sort of the root of our political problem.
In an interview from 2020, J.D. Vance agrees with the podcast host who says having grandmothers help raise children is the whole purpose of postmenopausal female. He also agrees with the host grandparents helping raise children is a weird, unadvertised feature of marrying an Indian woman. That's awesome. What is this? Why were you hiding the true Ludwig from us? What does this even mean? I think there's a tendency for a lot of these guys who want to sound super smart to like hyper intellectualize certain subjects. And it comes across as like boring and dare I say sociopathic. It might come across as like super intelligent to like people who are desperate for some kind of pseudo intellectual drivel, right? But like when you're running for president, all of a sudden, no, don't say Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro has his moments like that, but I don't think Ben Shapiro would talk about like postmenopausal females. Okay, for all of his faults, Ben Shapiro at least like is still a better room reader than JD Vance is. Okay, you give Ben too much credit. Like, look, I think Ben Shapiro is a bad person. Okay, but I think Ben Shapiro also legitimately loves his family. Okay, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm crazy for saying that, but I've never gotten the attitude. Like, I don't think I could see Ben Shapiro being like, my stupid son or daughter asked me about Pokemon and I told him to shut the f for a second. Like that's like a very specific type of person. I don't think Ben Shapiro would say that. Okay. Why are you so racially motivated when you talk? What the f are you saying?
A couple of months ahead of us. I'm going to Carolina right now. We're going to speak on the economy. It's basically a speech on what
Matt Walsh would say that though. Yes. The old women thing is something Matt Walsh would say. Yes. You are absolutely right. Matt Walsh would 100% say some like that. Some weird ass like that. Okay? Yes. What's
going on with our economy? It's gone very bad under this group of people with inflation, with the economy itself, and so many other things. The other thing we're going to talk a little bit on is crime. If you look at the migrant crime in New York, it's been out of control, and it is everywhere, as I predicted a long time ago. And we'll be talking a little bit about crime and all of the people that have come into our country illegally, millions and millions. I think it's close to 20 million, maybe it's more than 20 million. And they shouldn't have been allowed to come here. It's causing a tremendous problem. It's causing death And just it's been a horror show. Nobody's seen anything like it, and it's only going to get worse. They should not have allowed this to happen to our country. With that being said, I'm leaving for right now North Carolina. Do you have a question?
Yes, sir. What has the FBI told you about the hack on your campaign?
Well, they're looking at it, and they're doing it very professionally, and it looks like it's Iran doing it, because Iran is no friend of mine, and a lot of bad signals get sent. But it looks like it's Iran doing it, and the reason is because I was strong on Iran, and I was protecting people in the Middle East that maybe they aren't so happy about that. So that's what it seems to be, Iran.
Is that what the FBI told you specifically, that it was Iran?
I don't want to say exactly, but it was Iran.
And you said Harris's crowd sizes were AI and that there weren't people there. There's all kinds of video evidence and people who were there who have proven that false. Can you tell us about why you made that claim?
Well, I can't say what was there, who was there. I can only tell you about ours. We have the biggest crowds ever in the history of politics. We have crowds that nobody's ever seen before, and we continue to have that. We have a level of enthusiasm that nobody's seen before. They want to make America great again. That's what's happening. We're going to make it great again. Right now, we have a failing nation. We're in a failing nation, and become in many ways a third world nation, and we're not going to let that happen. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
All right, Donald Trump speaking as he participates in early voting in Florida ahead of him leaving for North Carolina. Again, that rally happening at 4 p.m. Eastern right here on Live Now from Fox. We're also keeping an eye out in Michigan, where J.D. Vance will be doing